So in this video, I want to talk about why selling your Pokemon investments is not as simple as you think. Now, I am not talking about, the actual process of selling, whether that's difficult or not. That's not what I'm trying to get at here. Obviously, there's another thing to be said about that. But in this video, I want to talk about other aspects of why it is hard to sell your Pokemon investments, and there's a lot of things to think about. And here, as you can see, there's about 3 bullet points that I can think of why selling is difficult, and it's not really that simple. The first thing I'm going to talk about is timing. The second thing I'm going to talk about is personal attachment. And the third thing is judgment from others. So let's first talk about timing, because that's, the more, I guess, important thing out of, those other two things. So timing the market, timing when is the best time to sell. Obviously there's a lot of different factors you could use here with timing. For example, okay, you want to time when maybe the best point is to sell, where maybe it's going to stagnate for a long period of time, right? That's time in the market. You may want to time, okay, I want to sell this maybe before a big reprint. Maybe it's shot up in price. For example, when Destin Rivals booster boxes went up all the way to $500, now they're down to $400. Okay, if you maybe bought them maybe close to MSRP or something, okay, you wanted to maybe secure the top end there in the short term. And maybe you're like in a bull market, right? Maybe you're like in a market like now where okay, it's pretty easy to sell almost anything. Should I sell it now before maybe when the market goes down, it's a little bit harder to sell some of these things. There's a lot of things with timing that makes it difficult, and that's why it's not really that simple, because you really have to think to yourself, okay, if I sell this right now in this market, is it maybe the best time? Is it going to go up maybe in like a month from now? Maybe some of these products I'm holding on to, maybe some out of print stuff like Sword and Shield. Is it really the best time to sell? Because we're seeing, right now, everything pretty much across the board has gone down a little bit or stagnated. But for example, Sword and Shield, Lost Origin, for example, was at 900. Now it's in the low 700s. Okay, is it really that great of a time to sell this right now? Probably not. And if I do sell it for whatever reason, maybe this is the only thing I want to sell. What will happen? Maybe in a few months, maybe the market goes back up, and potentially I could lose out on many percents of gains. That's what makes timing extremely difficult. And obviously, it's all up to your discretion and your own opinions on what you think is going to happen. But there's a lot of things that I think about. Okay, if I'm going to sell this, why I'm going to sell it? The timing, does it make sense? Is the time right? Has it just gone up on a huge run? Is it maybe due to go on a huge run? A lot of things to think about. Obviously, when you need to sell something for whatever reason, it's kind of a sunk cost. Okay, if I sell it, it goes up. It is what it is. It's already done for. I can't really dwell on it, right? But that is definitely a thing I always think about, because I obviously have sold stuff previously, and I think about the timing. Is it the correct timing to sell this, or should I maybe wait a little bit? Maybe it's due to run up. Those are some things to think about, and I definitely think about that. The major thing before I sell anything, the timing of it. Does it make sense to sell right now? The second thing is personal attachment. Now, this is something that is kind of weird for me, because, obviously I treat Pokemon and all these sealed products as an investment to make money, right? Evil to make money. But it's really weird, because at the same time that obviously I'm, investing to make money, it does kind of hurt to sell. And it's really weird, like I said, because I'm treating this like an investment, so it should only be for monetary gain. But still, for some reason, it's hard for me to want to sell a lot of these things, especially, some Sword and Shield stuff that I've sold previously. It's so hard for me to want to sell some of this stuff, because I personally really like having this product. I know, yes, it's sitting in cardboard boxes. It's not doing really anything. You can argue that, right? But it's still weird. It's just, I guess, a hoarder mindset that, it's really hard to sell some of the stuff because I just want to have it all. But at the end of the day, the goal of this is to actually make money, and how do you actually make money is by selling. But it's extremely hard when you've held on to stuff for a while, and it's out of print, and you're like, okay, I still want to have this, because once you sell a lot of this stuff, especially out of print stuff, most likely you're never going to buy it again. So whatever you sell, it's kind of done for. And that's where that personal attachment sort of comes in, where it's like, okay, I'm selling this, but I'm probably never going to buy it again. It's all, once I sell it, it's a done deal. And that is definitely something that I felt before, like, okay, I'm selling this. I really like this product. I want to have, this product for a long time, but I need to sell it to buy other things and to reach my goal, which is, monetary gain. So, personal attachment is something that, even though I am an investor and the stuff is to make money, it's honestly sometimes hard to sell some of these items because I just like having them. You can say, yeah, it is a hoarder mindset. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is judgment. Now, this is the biggest thing, especially, obviously social media exists. Judgment from other people. I've sold things in the past, I've talked about it before, and I always get judged. It doesn't matter what it is. You'll always get judged for selling something. And it's kind of weird because when I say, like, you really think about it, this stuff is for monetary gain. And when you sell something and obviously you're trying to make money, and let's say you do make money, people will still judge you for whatever reason. Now, there times maybe it's not the best time to sell, sure, but everyone's situation is different. And one thing on the internet that's, bad about this space is that people will judge you for selling. And isn't the whole point to make money with the space? Obviously, there's some people out there that have kind of outrageous takes on investing. You have to hold for 5, 10, 20 years, some crazy timelines. Guys, at the end of the day, everybody has their own reason or goals that they want to invest in when they want to sell. If somebody's up 100, 200%, they may be very happy with that. They can sell it pretty instantaneously, maybe in like a bull market like this, and they're happy with their gains and they want to move on. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you go online and tell somebody, hey, maybe I sold an Evolving Skies booster box, hey, maybe I sold my 151 product, people will go crazy. People will be like, oh, you should have kept waiting. It's going to keep going up. Well, here's the thing about Pokemon. It always goes up, right? At least from history, it always goes up at some rate. Sometimes maybe there's periods of stagnation, but you zoom out and, okay, you look at a wider time frame, it usually always goes up. So there's really no time where it's like, okay, you're gonna be, you could always argue at any point, really, oh, it's gonna keep going up. That it applies to anything. But like I said, obviously, I know there's some, levels to this where maybe some things are kind of obvious. Maybe you should hold on to it for a little bit more time. But truly, at the end of the day, the whole point of this is to make money. And some people, I think, have sort of detached that from investing, and it has sort of become, for some people, just personal attachment, where they don't want to sell because they just are personally attached to it, and therefore they judge people for selling for monetary gain. And that's sort of the weird thing you have to balance out, with investing. It's like, okay, even though you may like some of this stuff, if you're really here to invest for monetary gain, the personal attachment, while maybe it's good for some, in some ways, maybe to hold on to stuff and you're personally attached to it and it keeps going up exponentially, that's great. But at the end of the day, you have to sell some of the stuff to actually make money. That's what this whole investing thing is about. It's not about holding cardboard to the end of time. For some people it is, but at that point it's not an investment. You're just at that point collecting. And for me, my sort of rule of thumb and sort of what I've followed, at least for the 4 years I've been doing this, is I can sell anything really at any point. I don't have this, crazy mindset of time frames and I have to, hold until this point. It doesn't matter to me. The biggest thing for me is, okay, one of the things is like, okay, I want to have at least a case of each product I hold. Whatever quantity that is, like a case of booster boxes, ETBs, I want to at least have that amount in the long term. It doesn't matter whatever else happens in the short term. If I want to sell, if something skyrockets, I can make that decision. I don't put any time barriers in place. I just do whatever I want. So that's something I do. And personally, also, like some of the stuff, like at the end of the day, maybe, long term, I start, selling, some of the stuff. Maybe I sell under what, maybe I have a case, I start selling some stuff off. Some of the stuff, even though it is an investment, I will keep for my personal collection at the end of the day. Like I said, long term, I still want to hold some things, at least like a case worth. But, some of the stuff, if it does get to that point, it is more of a collection to me than an investment. And some things like that to me exist. For example, like Fusion Strike, I don't have much of at all. I don't really plan on selling any of that because for me, at least a case to me is a collection sort of thing that I want to have long term, regardless of really what happens, to this stuff. And that's sort of my sort of investing / collecting, whatever philosophy for me in the long term. I just want to at least have a case of everything. If I sell, within 2, 3, 4 years, a good amount of my product, it is what it is. I don't really set these barriers in place, but a lot of people do, and that's why they judge others. But everyone in this space, we all want different things, right? We see something go up 100%, we might think that's good enough. Some people may look at that product, think 200-300% is going to happen soon. So there's a lot of reasons why selling is hard. A lot of it is just, personal reasons, judgment from other people, but also the biggest thing I talked about first is the timing. It's really hard to think about, is this the right time to really sell? Because it's really hard to time the market, but sometimes you can sort of do it. But it's something I always think about before selling. Is it going to go up anytime soon? Because if it is, maybe it's worth just holding on to it for a little bit more time, because you may see exponential gains if you sometimes just wait a few months. But that's all I want to talk about here. I can make another video talking about how it's hard to sell, actually the process of doing that. But in this video, just want to talk about more of, I guess, the, you know, philosophical aspect of selling and why it's difficult. So that's all I want to talk about in this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.